happy to have you here. So, Clinton, you want to say a few words?
Just real briefly, I'll introduce Bill. But well, thank you, Robert, and thank you, Cassandra. I'm pretty high up away from the mic, so apologies. I'll try to lean over so you can hear me. But perfect. There we go. I'm in the screen. I feel good. All right. But yeah, so Clinton Maines with Hartford Funds. Thank you so much for having us today. Really happy to be here. My role, I'm in charge of San Diego County, Orange County for Hartford. I go around, meet with financial advisors, their clients, educate them on, our different investment options that we have, how it might fit into their portfolios that they're managing for you all and for their clients. But also sharing insights from our investment managers, Wellington and Schroeder's, kind of where we see opportunities or maybe some trouble ahead in the markets and investing. But I think really the best thing that we have is we have access to some really great third-party relationships that we like to tap into. And so I really try hard to go around to the best advisors like Robert and the folks we want to partner with and share with them ways that we think we can help, their clients and families with some of the things outside of just the investment spectrum, right? So today I'm really happy to introduce my friend and colleague, Bill McManus. Bill's our managing director for our Applied Insights team. So he works a lot with financial advisors, helping them on different financial and non-financial needs that they might have. Really works a lot with longevity and the challenges and opportunities that brings along with it. And so today he's going to talk a little bit about a partnership we have with a man, Dr. Mark Milstein, and he always gets mad if I speak too much and steal his thunder. So I'll let bring Bill up here. Please thank you for having us, and we appreciate it. So thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you, Clinton. Are we adjusted for the height difference? We good? Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. How we doing? Good. Really excited to be here. As Clinton said, my name is Bill McManus. I'm on our Applied Insights team at Hartford Funds. Clinton summed it up really well. We manage mutual funds, so we have investment partners. It's a really important part of what we do. But we also recognize that there's more to the planning process than just the investments. So we've strategically partnered with, some of the top thought leaders in the financial services industry, and we work with them directing research, developing content, and then my favorite part, having the opportunity to deliver to folks just like yourselves here today. One of the partners that we have, I'll mention them because they do really kind of underpin a lot of the work that we do. Clinton mentioned we focus a lot on managing longevity. So we have partnered with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and a program there they have called the Age Lab. So by virtue of the name, they're studying aging, changing demographics, the impacts of extended life expectancies. If you go back to 1900, which in the grand scheme of history is really not that long ago, life expectancy in the industrialized world was less than 50. Fast forward to today, and the prospects of living 80s, 90s, and beyond is pretty much expected. They call that a longevity bonus. And the way I kind of sum up the work the lab is doing, as we all are collectively experiencing this extended quantity in our lifespans, we want to ensure that the quality is there as well, right? I think ultimately that's the goal, right? That's what we want to do. So a ton of great research from the lab. Maybe next time we'll talk about them a little bit more, but really excited to share today's content all around brain health. So we partnered with a gentleman named Dr. Mark Milstein. He's a PhD from UCLA. He is a leading researcher in neuroscience, health, and happiness. And what him and others like him have done is really been able to provide us with research-based solutions to keep our brains healthy, boost productivity, and to really maximize longevity. One of the reasons, in addition to many, that we were so excited to work with Dr. Mark, the research around brain health has gotten very hopeful. It's gotten very optimistic in a relatively short time frame, in the last decade or so. And what we're discovering, we have a lot more control over our brain health than previously thought. And we see here in his quote, we have strong evidence that simple lifestyle interventions can dramatically improve brain health, lower the risk of disease today, tomorrow, and in years to come. So it's a very, again, hopeful, optimistic message that we're excited to share with all of you today. So for the agenda, we'll talk a little bit about your age versus your brain age. Might be a little bit different. The importance of brain health, kind of what's going on up there. And then we'll get to what I call the good stuff. How can we age-proof our brain? What are these lifestyle interventions Dr. Mark is mentioning? Sound good? Great. We've got a good intimate group here, so if you have any questions, comments, we can just make this more conversational. If you have anything, just raise your hand. So, your age versus your brain age. We we have our chronological age, right? The amount of years we've been walking this earth. Well, it turns out our brain age might not align. We can have somebody who, let's just say, is 60 years old, whose brain looks a lot more like somebody in their 40s and 50s. And we can also see the other side of that. We'll talk a little bit about why that might be. The other underpinning of a lot of this research comes from new discoveries around people that we call superagers. Is everybody familiar with blue zones? Areas around the world, right? Populations have these sort of outsized life expectancies. Similar research has uncovered these superagers, people in their 80s and 90s that through tests and scans, their brains look a lot more like somebody decades earlier. What we're finding, these folks, they do a lot of the same things that we're going to talk about today. So where do we get started? Put together a series of questions. This isn't a test, right? We're not going to sort of plug factors into ChatGPT and it's going to spit out a number and tell us how old our brains are. It's just sort of a general check-in. So the first is, how well can I manage my day? Forgetting an appointment, forgetting to pay a bill every once in a while, that's fine. Right? That happens kind of in the chaotic world that we live in. But if that's happening with an increased frequency, that's something we want to keep an eye out for. Number two is, how well can I remember important information? We're challenged with this one. And the reason that we're challenged with this is due to our reliance, sometimes over-reliance, on technology. I don't know about you all, but if I have something that's really important that I need to remember, I actually don't bother taking the time to remember it. I put it in here, right? It's in my phone, it's in my tablet. I can easily access it. But what we're finding is recall is a little bit of a use it or lose it skill. And we don't flex that muscle as much anymore because of technology. Perfect example, I can tell you both sets of my grandparents' telephone numbers from when I was like 12 years old. If you ask me right now, I couldn't tell you a single number in that phone, except for my wife's. That's the only one I got. But we just don't do it as much. So put yourselves to the test, do that trivia night. If you have that to-do list, that shopping list, even if you're using technology, just flip it over every once in a while. Just see if you can remember it. We want to take the opportunities to test ourselves every once in a while. How well can I move and maintain balance? Research has found people that have optimal posture and balance can reduce the risk of dementia by up to 45%. I did see you all sit up a little tall there. I caught that. So this is another one we want to put ourselves to the test. Anybody have grandkids, kids, right? They're constantly running around playgrounds, jungle gyms. My 10-year-old niece doesn't walk. She skips, does cartwheels, everywhere she goes. That would be weird to do as adults. But we have to put ourselves to the test. So golf, dancing, yoga, anything that you're doing to work on posture and balance, you're not only doing good things for your physical health, you're doing good things for your brain health as well. Same thing with walking. We're going to come back to this, but walking just 30 minutes a day, cumulatively, so not even at the same time, can reduce the risk of dementia by up to 65%. The other thing Dr. Mark recommends is picking up the pace. It's going to be all relative, but 5 to 7 minutes of that 30 minutes, if you're just doing it a little bit of a faster clip, elevate the heart rate, what we find cardiovascular health, directly tied to brain health. So walking is very important. And then I love this one, how do I feel? Research has found people that have a positive outlook on the aging process can reduce the risk of dementia by up to 49%. So kind of amazing, just the power of positive thinking and what that can do for us. So here's where the optimism and the hopefulness comes in, because let's face it, anyone who's dealt with cognitive decline, family member, loved one, as I have in my family, we would tend to use default statements like this. This is just a normal part of aging. It just happens. There's nothing we can do about it. It's genetic, so on and so forth. The key statistic here, 95 to 99% of instances of Alzheimer's and dementia are not strictly genetic. Let me be clear. Genes can play a role. They can raise or lower risk, but they're not determinate. So that's what Dr. Mark means when he says that we've got a lot more control than previously thought, which is obviously great news. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on up there. So our brains are about 3 pounds. Our brains do start to shrink starting at age 40, about 5% every 10 years or so. And our 3-pound brain makes 5 pounds of brain trash per year. Now, brain trash is leftover chemical reactions, broken down proteins. It just happens. It's just a normal part of being alive. But what we find is the more trash that's built up, the older the brain. So almost think of it like a busy downtown metro area. If there's just trash that's on the sidewalk, piles up, and nobody comes and cleans it, eventually it's going to be impossible to navigate and get around. So we want to be doing things to keep our brains clean because a clean brain is a healthy brain, and we're going to talk about how that happens in a second. Two types of brain trash, just to give you a visual, plaques and tangles specific to Alzheimer's disease, but left-hand side, 3 normally functioning brain cells communicating in a proper manner. The right-hand side, we see the plaques develop in between and the tangles within. And this is where we start to see a disruption in communication and the symptoms that we recognize as dementia. There's obviously planning considerations here. This one's a challenge. Average Alzheimer's patients survive 4 to 8 years, but some can live as long as 20. Again, just personal experience, and this was years ago, but unfortunately one of my grandmothers had severe Alzheimer's, and I remember my parents, my family planning based off of what the doctors were telling us at the time, maybe 3, 4, 5 years, and she ended up living 13, right? So you just don't know, and we almost have a little bit of a paradox where we have advances in medical technology, we're keeping our bodies healthy longer, if we're managing cognitive decline, just sort of exacerbate the situation. Cost, certainly a progression in the cost of care, where skilled nursing home over $100,000 a year now, adding on top of that if there's specific memory care needs. And these are just national averages, right? So they can vary pretty widely depending on where we're located, level of care that's needed, so on and so forth. Social medicine, not covering long-term nursing home stays, and all in all can be pretty significant from a financial outlay. But really what this all comes down to, all the things that we work so hard for in life, right? All the things that we want to enjoy, travel, time with family, still working, whatever it may be that brings joy to your life is all so dependent on the quality of our cognitive health, right? Which is why this is just such an important conversation that we want to share and that we can share with others. So let's get to the good stuff. How do we age-proof our brain? What are these lifestyle interventions that Dr. Mark is mentioning? There are 5 of them. They're all important, and there's a cumulative impact to either continuing to or starting to do these things. The first one, however, we are going to single this one out as our greatest ally in our fight to retain our brain, and that is sleep. So sleep is crucially important. Recommendations 7 to 9 hours a night. There are some folks that get by on less than that. Actually, they're called short sleepers. Do I have any short sleepers in here? Usually have a couple, yeah, and that's perfectly fine. But vast majority of us, that 7 to 9 hours is that sweet spot. We sleep in these 90-minute repeating cycles, and there's physical changes that happen to our brains while we sleep. So tonight and every night, while you're sleeping, multiple times a night, your brain actually shrinks down to about 60% of its normal size and gives itself what's called a brain squeeze. Sounds like something from a sci-fi horror movie, I know. But you give yourself a brain squeeze, it creates space between your brain and your skull, fluid then rushes up from your spine and gives your brain what is technically called a brain wash. It's called the glymphatic system. It's always happening during the day, but it mostly happens at night is where it really performs well. So again, brain squeeze creates that space, fluid comes up, washes out that brain trash, and then it gets into your bloodstream, kidneys, so on and so forth. But this is why sleep is so important. Sleep is the mechanism that we use to take out the trash. It's how we keep our brains clean. So how do we ensure that we're getting good sleep? A couple recommendations. Number 1, number 2 here, but I'll talk about this first. Sleep in true darkness. So ask yourself when you go to bed tonight, am I sleeping in true darkness or am I sleeping in what we call modern darkness? Because even with our eyes are closed, light pollution certainly can come from outside, but it can come from that alarm clock on the nightstand or the cell phone charging, or if you have a TV in your room, like that little red light on the TV, even when the TV's off, that can actually impact your blood pressure, insulin response, pulse rate, things that might inhibit your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. So basically the darker the better. I remember Pete Sampras, the tennis player. He actually used to travel with a roll of black masking tape, and when he was in a hotel at a tournament, he would tape up anywhere that was emitting light because he found he was able to sleep much better when it was darker. So blackout shades, eye masks. Ever since I met Dr. Mark, my wife and I have been wearing eye masks. Anecdotal, but it's actually, I think, really improved the quality of the sleep that we've gotten. Oh, no. Are we done with me? We want to put on the news? pick up the pace. It's okay. I can actually do it while they're getting it back. So yeah, it's fine. So basically, the darker the better, right? If it's darker, much more likely to fall asleep. The flip side of that is getting natural light early. So there's Nobel Prize winning research around what's called our sleep clock, and basically it turns out you're getting ready for bed when you wake up in the morning. So we have to let our bodies know that it's time to be awake. So within 30 minutes of the sun coming up, or if we're up before the sun comes up, we want to get exposure to natural light. It doesn't have benefits to have that cup of coffee in the sun when it's time to be awake. That's going to help us fall asleep that night. The third one, chilling out for better sleep. So has anyone ever been in a warm room? We're in a warm room right now. A warm room, and you're kind of tossing and turning. You just can't get comfortable and fall asleep. That's your brain and your body desperately trying to lower its core temperature. Our core temp drops a couple degrees when we sleep. So there's no magic number, and it's all going to be relative. But if it's a couple degrees cooler, crack that window, put the air down a little bit, much more likely to fall. I'll check in here. Yes?
Well, you're saying total darkness. Since I have night lights and outlets to get to the bathroom.
Yep. So I think motion light, or I think like the eye mask could help, because in the eye mask, light, but then when you do have to, if it hasn't really affected you, making it darker could be helpful for folks. So if it's not a problem, then you're all set. But yeah, have that safety first. But if you are like noticing, maybe you're just getting up or share with anybody afterwards. So making sure that the light's on, or a motion light. Questions? Yes.
I some time ago, and I had a lot of trouble, and I still have with my shoulders. I don't know where that came from. Rotator cuff on both sides, and I have to get up like we do when we're older to use the restroom. I mean, it's not just something you do when you go to bed and everything. And so I was, I got up. I used the bathroom real quick. It was dark, wide light up everything, and I couldn't reach, to get like toilet paper from over there or from behind me and stuff. So I have this container that's got this, real hard metal in it and stuff, and toilet paper. So it's like I know this is riveting and and stuff. So anyway, so I got up. I mean, I knew where my bed is. It's right there, and so I get up and I fall on this. I just my arms go through the thing. It was a bad fall, and I didn't break anything, and stuff, and I didn't bleed. But gosh, it was so painful from my arms to my biceps to my shoulders and everything. It was 1:00 in the morning. There was no way I could tell anybody. And stuff. And so I just laid there until I could finally make myself get into bed.
So
and
that might be an argument to keep the lights.
Yeah, I would say keep the lights for safety issues, and then if you want to try the mask, if it helps you sleep, or the motion lights, or whatever it may be. But it does address another question that comes up quite often: is what if I'm waking up in the middle of the night? If I'm waking up in the middle of the night, am I not getting the brainwash? We don't want anyone to think that's the case. It turns out, and I know that my wife is 33 weeks pregnant, so she's getting up a lot in the middle of the night. But it actually turns out we wake up in the middle of the night as we're sleeping way more often than we realize. As we're going through these cycles, we're actually waking up. We're not necessarily physically getting up, or we don't even know it. So if you're waking up in the middle of the night, most likely it's happening in a lighter state of sleep. So it's not necessarily impacting that brainwash. So we don't want anyone to think about that, and see what time it is. Because what happens as soon as you do that, what's the first thing that pops into your mind? Well, now I only have, I got to wake up and 2 hours, and then here's all the things I have to do trying to resist to do that. But the bottom line here, sleep is really an important part of the equation. So we want to ensure that we're getting the most amount of sleep for our bodies. Number two, oh, I lost the thing. That's right. Number two, it's fine. I know it. Number two is diet. So there is a gut-brain connection. And the main thing that we want to do here is reduce inflammation, because inflammation in our gut can spread to all areas of our body. But if it does so to our brain, it can actually impact a specific cell in our brain called microglia. It's basically the immune system for our brain. And it's very, very effective. Actually, as I stand here speaking with you, as you're sitting there listening to me, this microglia, it's going around in our brains. It's attacking brain trash. It's breaking it up so we have a more effective brain wash. However, if these cells become over-inflamed, they'll actually start attacking healthy brain cells. So we obviously don't want that to happen. So anything that we can do to reduce inflammation in our gut, there's a Mediterranean diet, mind diet, some folks call it. So fish actually a couple of times a week, extra virgin olive oil, beans, nuts are very anti-inflammatory. We want to eat things that are going to spoil eventually, obviously. Has anyone been to the Museum of Science and Technology in Chicago? That's from Chicago. So they don't have it anymore, but they had on display an unwrapped Twinkie. And it was unwrapped for like a dozen years, and it looked delicious. Looks like it literally just came out of the package. So there we go. So that's not something we want to eat on a regular basis. If the ingredient list reads like a chemistry experiment, probably not a regular basis. Pretty good rule of thumb, trying to eat whole natural foods 75% of the time. We're not going to be perfect, but if we can eat whole natural foods 75% of the time, we're doing very good things for our gut health and thus our brain health. Number three is distress surprise. So, we're constantly told that stress is bad, and we don't want to be overly stressed. And that's true. We don't want to be overly stressed, but it turns out a little bit of stress it's not only good, it's actually essential for our brain health. When we're stressed, cortisol is released, actually known to grow brain cells, specifically in the memory part of our brain. So a little bit of stress is fine. A little bit of traffic out here in Southern California. A little bit of market volatility. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It's going to come back. It's good for our brain health, but we want to manage it. So we don't want to be overly stressed. So a couple things that we can think about, changing perspective. There's an exercise called Rose, Thorn, Bud. And it's just a reflective exercise. So it's just taking some time at the end of the day or whenever to just think, what went really well today? What could have gone a little better? And what am I looking forward to tomorrow? Just kind of gives you a little bit of a pause. And then the other thing that is now mainstream science, the benefits around breathing exercises. So breathing, meditation, quiet time, whatever works for you. Research has found people who hadn't before and start incorporating some type of routine changes to their growth of the prefrontal cortex, where logic is applied, reduction of the amygdala, which is the fear center of our brain. The way that I think about this one is we just got to give ourselves a break, right? Our brains are constantly going from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed, thinking about, what I have to do next, thinking about family, whatever it may be. You just got to take a little bit of a pause. It's really good for our brain health. Dr. Mark says even just closing your eyes for a minute or two, during the course of the day, just a little reset can do a lot of good things for your brain health. So again, a little bit of stress is good, but we want to manage it. Number four is getting moving. So we talked about walking before. Again, walking just 30 minutes a day can reduce the risk of dementia by up to 65%. We want to try to just continue to incorporate some type of routine. It's really kind of just habit formation. So we have this acronym, and by the way, we have workbooks here, so I'll make sure we get that to everybody at the end. It has a lot of stuff we talked about. But we have this acronym, CARS, and what that stands for is visual cues. So it turns out the visual perception of our brain can be very motivating. So something as simple as like putting your walking shoes by the front door might give you that extra little kick, maybe when you don't feel so inclined to do so. Taking action, parking a little bit further away from the store. I think you can leverage technology, right? If you have a fitness tracker, or now phones give us stand reminders, walk reminders, so on and so forth. I think that can be very helpful. The R stands for reward. Do something you like doing, right? We don't want exercise to be a chore, so find something that's enjoyable for you. And then lastly is support, right? If we have somebody to, work out with or go for a walk with or whatever it may be, can be very helpful. I need a lot of accountability myself, so that's helpful in that regard as well. But the key is just get some kind of motion in on a daily basis. So that was our fourth one. The last one is my favorite one. So the last one is, so the key here, new things. And I emphasize new things because oftentimes this topic comes up and people say, well, I do crossword puzzles or Sudoku, or I've got brain games, on my phone. And those are fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with those. But if you think about it, if you're just constantly doing crossword puzzles and Sudoku, basically you're just getting really good at crossword puzzles and Sudoku. You're building on a skill. You're not necessarily learning something new. So in addition to those things, we want to learn new stuff because when we do so, two things actually physically happen in our brains. Number one, there's a chemical called norepinephrine. It actually squirts in our brain when we learn something new. It's actually been described as a power wash for our brain. So obviously that's helpful. We talked about having a clean brain. And the second thing that happens is myelin, which is the coating around our brain, actually builds up. So it helps speed up cell-to-cell communication and processing. So again, in addition to this other stuff we do, we want to incorporate new learning. So, pick up a book, a podcast, a documentary on a new subject. Two things that have proven to become really effective in this regard are learning to play an instrument or learning a new language. The frustration that comes along with that actually helps kind of supercharge those reactions. So that can be helpful. Learning a new physical activity, then we're checking off a couple of the boxes that we're talking about. So that's really, really good as well. So anything we can do to incorporate new learning. The last point that we always make here has to do with socialization. So we encourage everyone, socialize, meet new people when it comes to our topic around, learning new things. When we meet new people, we're learning new things about them. They're turning us on to different ideas or subjects or whatever it may be. And then we think about the benefits of our social network. I mentioned before our relationship with the MIT Age Lab. We've been working with them for 20 years. And almost any challenge or opportunity that's associated with successfully navigating longevity, the solution almost invariably comes down to the quality of our social network, right? It's what keeps us engaged and active and motivated, basis for our support system in many instances. That they actually use the word intentionality. So are we intentional about the social network? But this thing goes a long way on even a lot of the things that we talked about today. I will make one last point around this topic, and Dr. Mark is very adamant about this, and he encourages all of us, for ourselves and the people that we love, have our hearing checked. Hearing is really important. People that have mild, untreated hearing loss increase the risk of dementia by 2 times, and it's something that we want to address. So just encourage everybody, have that check, annually, and if there's an issue, we want to address it. Yes?
Could you repeat that?
Yeah. Is this thing on? Turn them up. No, that's a good one. Thank you. But no, it's really, here we go. It's really an important area. So again, socialize with friends and meet new people. So did everybody learn something new today?
Yeah.
Awesome. We are on the right track. So we're going to open it up for questions, but we do put this one in here because it comes up pretty often is what about supplements? So if anyone's working with a doctor and they're recommending supplements, absolutely, follow your doctor's orders. But we're a little leery around supplements. Sometimes the marketing can get a little ahead of the science, not as highly regulated, could interfere with other medications. So particularly when it comes to like sleep and diet, we want to try to do things as naturally as possible. Dr. Mark tells a pretty funny story around supplements. So everyone's seen the advertisements for like memory boosting supplements, right? They're on news channels all the time. Yep, all those things, right? They're on all the time. So Dr. Mark was giving a talk one time, and a gentleman came up to him afterwards and was raving about this memory care supplement. Recall so much better, much more sharp, much more just in tune with the world around me. Dr. Mark's like, that's wonderful news to hear. Just out of curiosity, what's the name of the supplement you're taking? He looked at him kind of blankly and said, you know what? I can't remember right now. So take that one for what you will. So do I have any questions? Anybody? Yes.
Repeat. Here.
Oh, so have our hearing checked, and if there's an issue, we want to address it. So studies show mild untreated hearing loss increases the risk of dementia by 2 times, and if it's more severe, that actually goes up to 5 times. Just the potential lack of pullback, lack of engagement, lack of learning, so on and so forth. So the hearing aid can go a long.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. The technology has come such a long way that we just encourage folks do what we can to address that.
Right. So
You're welcome.
hearing checked. Any other? Oh,
Yes.
here, can I?
Oh, I'll show you. It's called. I got it on Amazon. It's called Fresh Me. Like refresh, Fresh Me. Yeah. Kind of weird. Like
Remember that, not put it in your.
Yeah.
Hey, for
I know. I just gotta pull it up.
for the benefit of our remote participants, could you repeat the question? Because the questions are coming faster than we can get a mic to the people.
Yep. The question was around the eye mask that I recommended, and it's called Fresh Me on Amazon. My wife found it. Anybody else? Any other questions? Yes. Oh yeah.
I like to take a nap every day at between 2 and 3.
Yep.
And I usually go between 30 minutes, 45, sometimes an hour. And when that 2 o'clock comes around, I was yawning a few minutes ago.
You're like, this meeting was not scheduled at a good time. Yeah.
I mean, it's the bewitching hour for me. Is that good or bad?
Perfect. So naps, the question was around napping. Is napping okay? Napping is totally fine. Napping is good for us in a lot of cases. The only caution around napping is we don't want to necessarily nap too long. Have you ever napped a little longer than maybe you intended and you wake up and you're kind of more groggy and tired than you were when you started the nap? You probably interrupted yourself getting into a deeper state of sleep. So we want to try to limit those naps. So you're perfect, and 1 a day, and usually not too late in the day, just so you don't want it to affect your ability to fall asleep at night. But other than that, I'm a big fan of napping when I can. Anybody else? Yes.
So napping not in place of those 7 to 9 hours. So still get your 7 to 9.
Still want to try to get, again, everyone's going to be a little bit different, but that 7 to 9 is kind of the sweet spot for it. And so the question was, is napping kind of take away from that 7 to 9 hours? We still want to try to get that. So the nap is sort of a supplement to that, I guess. Anybody else?
Do people tend to nap or sleep longer or less long as they get older?
I mean, it's all. I'll poll the audience here. More sleep or less sleep? I think probably a little bit less is typically like a trend that we see, and that's fine, right? Basically, the amount of time you sleep. If you're struggling in other ways with just like energy during the day, or it's affecting other things, then maybe like you kind of go back and revisit, am I getting the right amount of sleep for me personally? But it's because we're all going to be a little bit different. So I think it just depends. Yes. Oh.
Here, Judy. May I pass this down? Thank you.
If I sleep too long, I am so stiff and I hurt so bad. It takes 2 hours for me to be movable.
Yeah.
So shorter is better. And I'm sure I'm not the only one here.
I would guess so.
It's individual.
Yeah, everything's kind of individual, but yes.
How does your diet affect your brain health?
Yep. So we were talking before. I'll go back because I know that's when we kind of kicked off so let's go back to diet. So diet. So there's, I was mentioning before, basically our body's all interconnected, right? So what we eat can have an impact on inflammation. So if inflammation from our gut spreads to our brain, which can certainly happen, it can impact our ability to keep our brains clean. So we want to think, and also it could affect sleep. When we eat kind of too late, it could affect sleep, so on and so forth. So this is the recommendation, and it's in the workbook as well. Just a couple things that we have. So I mentioned before, fish, olive oil, nuts, beans, very anti-inflammatory. And again, the general rule, whole natural foods, 75% of the time is doing good things for our gut health.
But I was just going to say.
Yeah, ready?
I do a lot of work with Dr. Milstein. He actually lives here in La Jolla, so I get to see him quite often, which is very nice. He recommends a test that you might take if you're getting blood work done, which is called a CRP test, C-reactive protein, that judges the amount of inflammation in your blood. So next time you're at your doctor, maybe you ask for I don't think they have to take any extra blood. It's just kind of one of those extra tests they can run. So maybe ask for a C reaction protein test. And if you have extra inflammation, again, that would lead to things we maybe have to talk about from a diet and other things, because it could be harmful for your brain. So just wanted to share that.
Forgot about that.
I have blood work. Very curious.
It's not in the workbook, I don't think. So,
Book, though,
yep, I was good. Yep. But yeah, I would write that down or take a note.
Yeah, we'll get you the.
Yeah, we'll write it on the book for you. There you go. Yeah.
I can share a little recent experience. I sit here with a torn hip labrum. And I was in emergency a couple of weeks ago, only because that's where Kaiser steered me to. And that was one of the tests they ran. And it was high the day that I was in emergency. And I'm still going through the process, had an MRI yesterday, but I had my primary care guy ordered blood work just to check that indicator. And he happily reported literally yesterday that it was down into a normal range. It's less than 7.5 something. I don't know what the unit of measurement is, but it's a real thing.
Yeah, good addition. Okay. ERP.
ERP.
Yeah, so the doctor, they'll know what it is. In the labs, they'll know what that is. It's a pretty common test.
Like rheumatoid arthritis and things like that.
Yep.
So I can't help but take a minute to plug for the Village Movement members in the room here. The Understanding the New Food Pyramid on Thursday. This is exactly the kind we're going to talk about. So please stop by and sign up. Yeah.
Perfect. Good.
Yeah, I have a kind of a crossover question between diet and supplements. I see no mention of probiotics. Is that a big thing?
So I think that's going to be, so by the way, I myself am not a doctor. I just played one at the event today. But we worked really closely with Dr. Mark. So if there's any questions, I won't answer. And I'm trying to remember if I've heard him say anything specific about probiotics. Have you heard him, Clinton?
Well, mostly just with the gut-brain connection.
Yeah, for overall gut health, I think if you find it helpful.
I'm a little surprised they didn't say anything about fish oil.
Fish oil? Well, I talked about the
that was up there?
Yeah, not fish oil specifically.
The diet, even better.
It's actually 3 times a week recommendation for fish. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I?
Just fun. Part of socialization for us seniors is happy hour.
Yeah.
I mentioned that.
Love happy hour.
I guess it just depends on how happy the hour is. So Dr. Mark actually does say, a glass of red wine, could actually, fall in line with some of the diet stuff that we're talking about. And I don't think it'd outright say it's great for your brain health, but it could be, helpful. In moderation is what I typically hear him say. If happy hour is impacting like sleep, that might be something we need to consider, but
We'll react differently to alcohol. So it just makes, like I said, if you're not feeling great the next day or you find it didn't help you sleep, probably best not to be too happy at happy hour.
Yeah.
We all need at least a little happy hour.
We need a little happy hour. Yeah, it's Friday. We need a little happiness in our lives.
Did he mention whether martini should be gin or vodka?
A vodka martini guy, extra dirty. So take that one. Yes.
What's the issues related to my brain health?
Yep. So, and I don't know if you wanted to add anything at the end.
You kind of alluded to it a little bit. The biggest challenge, frankly, is
May I?
You wanna-
please. I can yell in here. So I think, and I've got data that we can pull up. If you go to, is it Genworth? I think has a great website that actually lets you, based on your zip code, find out what the costs are for skilled nursing, memory care, and things like that. I mean, I'll give you an example. My grandmother passed away at 100 about 2.5 years ago. She was in a senior living center for almost 5 years, and she started at about $5,500 a month. Towards the end, it was closer to $11,000 a month. So a typical memory care center in San Diego is going to be in that $11,000 to $12,500 per month. area. So that is a serious hit to most people's nest eggs.
What is site?
I believe it's Genworth. Genworth, Gen. So G is in George, E is in Edward, N is in Nancy. Worth Financial. I'd be happy to share that with Cassandra and
Email to all
Yeah.
registrants.
yeah, I'll send the info to Cassandra and happily share that with you.
Robert, they have a website?
Yeah,
Is that
exactly.
So we can put a link at the event page. We'll put a link at the event page for people to go to and access it
Yeah,
as
it's a
well.
tool that's actually built into our financial planning software. So when we're having that conversation around long-term care and things like that, which is, the odds are 50% or more of us are probably going to need that at least at some point in our lives. Average stay of about 3.5 years. I mean, it adds up fast, so. Okay.
And standard insurance doesn't cover it.
You generally need to have
Medicare.
specific, Medicare does not cover it unless you are indigent. So, does not cover it. Does not. Unless you're on Medi-Cal in San Diego, right? But that means you've got to give up all your assets. You have to literally show you have no assets. So, and even then, you're not in the greatest of care, right? That's the thing the last thing we need is to be placed in a place we don't want to be, right?
Yeah.
So,
It's your life.
yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? Thank you for the question, Bob.
My question was, is that just the memory care or any type of nursing home care?
Yeah, anything that's considered long-term care that's not based on a medical stay of a certain period of time, that becomes long-term care or skilled nursing, and that is not covered by Medicare.
And the percentage you said is 30%?
Oh, we're talking probably more like 50 to 60% of us are going to need some sort of care like that in our lifetimes. Have to prepare for it, absolutely. Yeah.
Does your long-term care insurance cover a lot?
Yeah, that's a great question. May I elaborate? So what typically happens is a long-term care policy is usually a rider on a permanent or a whole life insurance policy. So if you had term insurance, that's not going to cover it. If you have a permanent policy where it's building up cash value and things like that, it has a death benefit. You generally can build in what's called a long-term care rider. And what that typically does is it gives you a certain amount of funds that can go specifically to your care. And it can be anybody that's providing the service. It could be somebody, a relative. It can be a skilled nursing center. It can be a senior living center. Depending on the policy that you have, it can be I'm going to receive X number of dollars every single month. I can use it to pay for care, or I can use it to pay for other things, but you have to qualify. And that's the key thing here. There's a term called activities of daily living. Have you heard that term before? Okay, so it basically means, do you need help transferring from a chair to a bed? Do you need help getting dressed? Do you need help feeding yourself or preparing food? Do you need help taking a shower or cleaning up? So if you cannot perform 2 of those 6 activities of daily living, you qualify for long-term care. There used to be, and some people still sell these policies. I don't think they're a great idea. They used to sell just long-term care policies, but it literally was a use it or lose it policy. And so I know far too many clients in their 80s and 90s who paid for a policy that frankly they're never going to use. So a long-term care policy that's a rider attached to a permanent life insurance policy makes a whole lot more sense.
Robert, is an
Yes.
Alzheimer's diagnosis also automatically,
exactly.
that kicks in
Yeah,
automatically?
and cognitive issues is a whole separate thing.
Okay.
If you qualify for dementia or Alzheimer's, that's going to qualify you for long-term
So
care.
can I ask one more question?
Sure.
I know it's beneficial to start a long-term care policy earlier, right? But are there options, so if you start late?
Yeah, that's a great question. Ideally, you want to be probably somewhere between 45 and 75 to really think about a policy, because the reality is, if we're closer to 80, the likelihood we're going to need is probably higher, and the premiums are off the charts. If you have somebody starting at 45, their premiums are going to be so low that they're going to thank themselves 40 years later when they might actually need it.
And then I bet you have some investment strategies if you don't.
If you don't, I mean,
Get
that's,
started
yeah, so
long-term.
part of what we try to do in our planning process is actually, we look at your income, your expenses, your finances. Are we going to be okay paying for what we want to accomplish in our retired life? What happens if? So that stress test, if you will, that's where we can start doing some of that testing to see, okay, if we need 3 years in a senior living center or memory care, how does that impact your portfolio? Right?
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Any other
Thank you.
questions? No? No? Well,
Hand out the workbooks.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
And did you also want to pass out?
Yeah, we do have an evaluation form. I really encourage you to please fill those out, really to see if this is the sort of thing that you find helpful. If there's anything we can do and improve it, please let us know. Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great job.
So much. Thanks.